Hello. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JohnnyVTV Live. I'm JohnnyVTV. Join me right now. That's Kyle, baby. What's up, Kyle?
Right. How we doing,
totally
Johnny?
Kyle, dude.
That's right.
It's good, man. It's good. Guess what? Guess who just is about to join us right now?
Oh, who would that be?
Who'd that be?
Yeah,
It's our boy Nick Durst. He's just getting his game face on. So we'll have him out any second.
He's getting ready behind the scenes, behind the curtain, as they say.
Behind the curtain, as they would say. Guess what? What's also have one more surprise guest who just joined on. Dude, I'm so excited about this next kid. He literally just joined. He is an absolute savage. If there's anybody in the world who gets better guests for his show than our boy Nick Durst, it's this next kid who I'm about to bring on, Jake Asman. Let's go, dude. How you doing?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for the introduction, Johnny. I appreciate it, man.
Dude, I miss you, man. I haven't seen you in a minute. How's it going?
Yeah, man. It's been a bit, right? I'm hanging in. I mean, I'm based here in Houston. We got Yankees Astros tonight. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. So all is well.
Who's getting the ball thrown at them tonight? That's my question.
Well, it's interesting, right? I mean, you only got 5 players on the Astros that actually were on that 2017 team. So I don't think it will get to that. I think the fans are going to be vicious, especially to, Altuve, Correa, Bregman, the guys that were actually on the team in 2017. Those are the ones that are going to hear it the most from the crowd. But it's rare that, you get a regular season baseball series that actually matters. So I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, Yankee fans have waited a long time to boo the Astros.
Hey, Jake, how's it going with Sports Map Radio? I mean, dude, you're blowing up. What's the end goal here? Because it just continues to improve day after day. I've been a fan for the last few years. I religiously watch, and you're always getting great guests. You're always getting great content. So what's your whole projection and trajectory for the Jake Asman Show?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, Johnny. It's, people like you is why, you have so much fun, doing the job, right? I mean, you just try to put a good show out every day. So, day to day, it's like you do one show on a Tuesday. I'm already thinking, all right, well, what are we talking about tomorrow? Who are the guests that are coming on? What are going to be the main topics, right? I mentioned Yankee Astros. We'll talk about that. You got the Bucks playing the Nets tonight. So, maybe you're mixing some NBA. There's draft stuff going on that you're still reacting to and discussing. So, day to day, it's just kind of you get kind of obsessed with the process, obsessed with the show that I haven't really thought, too far down the line, kind of what I'm going to do. I just try to grow the show. I've recently have started, posting a lot of clips from the show on YouTube. That's done really well. So kind of bringing a new audience through YouTube to get them to tune in every day to either, the show on radio or the show on the website or the podcast. So just kind of enjoying it each day. And, people like you listening and calling in, it makes it all, fun at the end of the day.
You know what, man? It's great to see, you've honestly done so well with it, and I love watching it, and I love that, we have a great connection. I'm very happy that you're able to come on and be a part of our show, our brand new show, JohnnyVTV Live. I got a couple of great co-hosts with me, and our boy Nick Durst just joined in. Let's bring him on. What's up, kid? How we doing?
What's up, guys? Yeah, great co-host here who was late because he was hosting another show. So
I think you had a pretty good guest too.
You're not late or missed a show because of a dinner, or work. But
no. But my wife wants me to eat dinner soon. Yeah, I was just interviewing Dave Damashek. So pretty good interview there. I know JohnnyVTV is a big fan. Jake, excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, Nick. Great to be with you guys.
So let's dive into it here because obviously, as we know, Thursday was the NFL draft. A lot happened, and there's a lot to look at, and there's other NFL stuff. Jake, I want to start with you. Give me the NFL draft recap. Who had the best draft, and who's a team now to look out for after a very good selection of picks on Thursday and Friday and Saturday?
That's a great question, Johnny. I think it kind of depends on the type of draft you're looking at, right? I mean, I could look at what the Browns did, and I thought they got really good value with their 2 picks. I mean, to get JOK in the second round, who fell, I guess, because of a medical issue, but still first-round talent, to get a top tackle like they did in Tevin Jenkins, I thought was a really good move as well. I mean, the thing is, though, you just don't know. I hate to say that because you got to actually see how it plays out. So I like to look at teams and based on how they did from filling a need standpoint with value mixed in. So, I'm a Jet fan. I usually think the worst with the Jets when it comes to the draft. I thought this was the second year in a row that Joe Douglas did a tremendous job, obviously helping the young quarterback they just used the second pick on. But to be aggressive and go all offense your first 4 picks and get Elijah Moore at the beginning of the second round, who in my mind was, a top 5 player at his position coming out. I just, I couldn't be happier with the draft process the Jets had. And then, a lot of people like to get on Dave Gettleman, but I'll tell you what, I thought he did a great job in this draft. Maybe that's the Joe Judge effect as well, but trading down, recouping a first-round pick next year and still getting a good player in Kadarius Toney, I love that. And here's the thing, and I talked about this a lot on the show, the Giants now have 2 picks next year, right? So if Daniel Jones doesn't work out, right, they gave him all these weapons. If he doesn't play well after 3 years, it's not a Sam Darnold situation where you still kind of don't know if there's not enough talent around him. Oh, what do we do? Do we keep him? One way or another if he's your guy. And if he's not your guy, you could trade up and get a quarterback next year. You could package those 2 picks and call up Deshaun Watson and the Texans and see if you can work out a deal, sending him to the NFC. You could work out a deal for a disgruntled Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Like the Giants now are in position where if they don't get it done at quarterback this year, they have options. So I really love what they did from a trade back standpoint and just also, some of the picks they made. I thought they did a great job throughout the draft.
It's pretty obvious what the Giants need to do here, and that is to use their 2 first-round picks and go get Aaron Rodgers. This team is not going to win with Daniel Jones, or at least maybe they'll win. They're not Super Bowl contenders. They look like they're going to have an elite defense, Jake, here. So, they have all these offensive weapons now. They draft Toney. They signed Galladay. They have Shepard still. They have Slayton. They have Ingram. They got Rudolph. Barkley's coming back. Hopefully he's good. To me, I'm still worried about their offensive line because they got rid of Zeitler for cap casualty. They didn't replace him. But I think the Joe Judge effect is real, Jake. And I think Joe Judge totally changed the culture in 1 year. And now it looks like a lot of players have interest in playing for this guy.
I thought he did a really good job. I mean, it's weird because you're talking about a coach that still went 6-10 in his first year, and they started 1-7. But given what we've seen from the Giants, how close they were in these games, you just felt like this team got better as the year progressed. And obviously, the injury that Daniel Jones suffered at the back end of the year, I felt like that affected him as a player. And I think, they don't want to say it during the season, but, Joe Judge basically told the Michael Kay show yesterday that the injury that Jones suffered was a lot worse than what they let on. So, it's going to be a prove-it year for him. Obviously Joe Judge, people like him, but prove-it year for him as well. I mean, you're going into year 2. There's real expectations. The division you're in is still not very good. I mean, the Eagles are still in flux. Washington's good, but I still don't trust Ryan Fitzpatrick being the guy. We've seen this before. He's never taken a team to the playoffs as a starting quarterback. And then you look at the Cowboys. Yeah, talent-wise, they're loaded on offense, but Dak's coming off injury, and we got to see if they fix their defense, and I'm not in love with Mike McCarthy as a head coach. So I think this division's wide open for the Giants. So you're going to stick with Daniel Jones because you're not going to give up on the guy after just 2 seasons as the quarterback. That being said, you can move off of him after a 3rd year. You're not going to pick up his 5th-year option if he goes out there and has 11 touchdowns to 10 interceptions again like he did this past year. So I like the roster. I like the coach. Now let's see if the quarterback can kind of lift up the weapons that they put in place around him.
Absolutely, 100%. If I'm a Giants fan, I'm a Jets fan. I'm very happy with what they did. You just said Dave Gettleman is a notorious guy that does not trade back, but he bucked the trend. He traded back. I honestly thought they were going to get Devontae Smith. The Eagles, once again, and I know all the Giant fans are pissed off at him. Once again, the Eagles found a way to mess it up for the Giants, just like they did for the playoffs this past year. I thought Devontae Smith was going to go there, and I would have jumped all over it if I was a Giants fan. Like you just said, it's all on Daniel Jones now. I think now there's no more excuses. I don't want to hear it. This is do or die time for Daniel Jones. If he doesn't show some major leap in progression, he is not the guy. And quite frankly, I don't think he is the guy, but now he has a legitimate chance. He's got all the weapons he needs. He's got a very, very tough defense, middle of the pack in the top 10, I would say, at their peak. And Joe Judge, man, if nothing else, he's got his guys playing for him. I enjoyed watching this Giants defense last year. They stymied a lot of tough offenses, including Tampa Bay's Tom Brady offense in MetLife. And like you said, I think it's wide open for them, man. Like, I'm excited to see Babytron. Kenny Golladay is one of my favorites. He's a big incubator guy for me. I've had him since his conception, and I'm excited to see him go out there, get a nice 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. Don't hate it. Your Honor, no objections.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to stay on the field, right? That's kind of like the big issue with Golladay, right? Let's see what he is coming off the injury. I mean, I look at this Giants team, though, and once again, they're in a division that's wide open for them. And even though they didn't end up getting, Devontae Smith, I still think, you know what, if you say to me, Jake, would you rather have Devontae Smith or Kadarius Toney and the Bears' first-round pick next year? I probably would take the deal that Gettleman made because I think there's so much value in accumulating assets. The Jets turned Jamal Adams into 2-1s. They already reaped the benefit of that by A, not having to pay a box safety $18 million a year, and B, they used the 23rd pick they got from Seattle, packaged that with the 3rd-round pick they got from Seattle, and moved all the way up to get the best guard in the draft at pick 14 in Elijah Vera Tucker, who's going to immediately impact Zach Wilson in year one more than Jamal Adams ever would playing, a non-premium position on defense. So you look at it from a Giant perspective, Johnny, you now have 2 picks next year. You have the trade options for these disgruntled quarterbacks. You can move up and go get a guy you believe in the draft next year, which is something that they definitely could do if Daniel Jones doesn't play well. Or let's say best case scenario, Daniel Jones takes a huge step in his 3rd year. He's Josh Allen in year 3. And then all of a sudden, you got 2-1s next year to continue to add on to your football team. So I really love what the Giants did. I mean, people joke Dave Gettleman would never trade back. Well, he finally did, and I thought he did a great job, not just with the first trade back, but even trading down for the second time and getting even more picks in 2022. I thought it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I'm thinking not only the Giants, but like you said, the Jets. And guess what, buddy? That leads us into our next segment. The 2021 New York Jets outlook. I'm curious to hear what you think. Obviously, I know you're a big Jets fan. You always tweet about them and give your opinion on it. Dude, I mean, listen. Jet fans should be very happy. I think there's a lot to love. First of all, they got a fantastic head coach. They got a real players guy. If you even love the game of football, you love watching Robert Saleh on the sidelines. His players love him. They respect him. He gets the best out of them. They want to play for him. Now they started building with a lot of great draft picks. Zach Wilson's their guy. That's who they wanted. You said they've been absolutely loading up on the offensive line. If it performs to its capability, this could be a probably top 7 unit in the league. They have Tevin Coleman at running back, who, going back to his Falcons, I love Teco Raw. I think he's so underrated. If he's getting 20 touches a game, I think he's still a big-time threat. And, dude, they're adding out to the receiving core. Their defense is going to start blossoming, and there's a lot to love. What do you think?
I love what they did, and I'm believe me, I'm the first one to rip into the Jets when I think they've been bad. I mean, the last 10 years they've been a train wreck, and I've been as vocal as anyone criticizing the team, even though I love the team as much as anyone. But as far as what they did in the draft, Johnny, I love it. I mean, you knew they were going to take Zach Wilson. I was all in on moving off of Sam Darnold because it was just too big of a risk to stick with him in his 4th year. And what do you do about the 5th-year option? You can't guarantee him that. I just didn't think it made sense to keep Sam when you're picking 2nd overall, when it's a loaded quarterback class, and you have a GM that didn't draft the quarterback. So go out, let the GM get his guy. He got his head coach. The head coach reports to the GM. And now Joe Douglas went out there, got his quarterback, who we all like, in Zach Wilson. But for him to have success, you got to help Zach Wilson. So the exact opposite of what Mike McCagnon did for Sam Darnold, Joe Douglas would not let that happen for Zach Wilson. So to trade back up and get, arguably the best guard in the draft in Elijah Vera Tucker, and then compound that at pick 34, where you could have traded out, you could have went Jenkins on the offensive line. No, let's go and get a stud wide receiver that is immediately going to be a security blanket over the middle for a player like Zach Wilson. So getting Elijah Moore, I thought, was great. And then, to get a running back like Michael Carter in the 4th round, that's when you're supposed to draft running backs, right? How many guys do we see in the 3rd or 4th round, 5th round even, that end up being Pro Bowl caliber running backs? I mean, the last couple of years, whether it be, Alvin Kamara or Kareem Hunt, the list goes on and on. So you take a flyer on a running back that had, high upside value, and you add that to a running back room that already had, Coleman and LaMichael Pirine. There's, the Jets aren't the 07 Patriots on offense, but they're light years better than what they were the last 3 years when Sam was quarterbacking them. So, just from a philosophy standpoint, how to build your team from 2000 to 2019, the Jets used 2 first-round picks on offensive linemen. It was the same draft, 2006, to Brickashaw Ferguson and Nick Mangold. And over the last 2 years, Joe Douglas in 2 drafts has already matched that total with Mekhi Becton, who's an all-pro already on the left side, and then just traded up to get the best guard in the draft in Elijah Vera Tucker. So the Jets line is now set up on the left side for maybe the next decade plus. And I think if you're a Jet fan, you're not going to fix a 2-14 team overnight, but it's been a good offseason and free agency, and it was a very good draft.
I know Kyle's been talking to me about the AFC East. He was interested, right, Kyle? You were interested in what the Patriots were doing, what the Jets were doing, and you're thinking there might be some new blood in that division.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as new blood. I mean, obviously, I think the Bills are still number 1 at the top in this division. I think that goes without saying. But I really think that number 2 is going to be a dogfight this year. I mean, Miami had a really great draft as far as I'm concerned. New York had a good draft too, but I really think that New England did have a better draft than New York simply because of the defensive needs that they address. And getting Christian Barmore, I shouted him out last week here. I guess the Patriots are listening, but great pickup there as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I thought New England had a really good draft. I mean, the thing is with them, though, I think Cam is shot. Like, I think he's garbage, to be honest with you guys, and he's a nice guy, but I think he's terrible. So, eventually you're going to go to Mac Jones, and I'm not in love with Mac Jones either. I mean, if the Niners took him at 3, everyone's killing them, but New England takes Mac Jones at 15, they sit there and do nothing, and all of a sudden, he's a future Hall of Famer just because Bill Belichick drafted him. I mean, we have no track record of Bill drafting a quarterback in the first round. So I think the Patriots are going to, they're going to be a playoff caliber team again. Don't get me wrong. For them to win 7 games in spite of Cam last year, I thought was actually, pretty good coaching by Belichick. But I still think you look at that AFC East, the Jets are still the 4th place team. I still say I still got to see what New England is. So I'd put them at 3. And look, Miami, it depends on Tua. If Tua takes a big step in year 2, that roster might be the best in the division. They could win the division. But until they prove it, and we saw what Allen did last year in his 3rd year, I still think the Bills are the top of that division.
Yeah, you don't think that's sour grapes with New England at all, being a Jet fan?
I mean, you actually think Cam's good? Like, that's what I would say.
I wouldn't go that far, but I think Bill might be able to squeeze the last year or 2 out of him. But I think that
he's good. He won 7 games.
But you got to remember, guys opted out last year too, and what's their full roster. So we'll see going this year.
Yeah, I mean, they won 7 games this past year. It's not like people act like the Patriots were, the Jets at 2-14. I'm just not in love with their quarterback situation. Like, I got to see it with Cam. I got to see it with Mac Jones before I say they're better than the Dolphins, who I think Tua will be better in the 2nd year. Before I see them better than the Bills. I think what helps the Patriots is, there's an extra playoff team available now in the conference. So when you get 7 teams that get in, I'd be surprised if New England's not battling for one of those playoff spots if they don't win the division.
Yeah, QBs are moving all around like crazy here. Nobody had a worse draft than Jimmy Garoppolo. Not only does he eventually lose his starting job because Trey Lance is drafted, he's probably thinking, all right, how am I getting out of here? How am I getting to New England? But no, the Patriots take Mac Jones. How many times in this draft process did Bill Belichick call Nick Saban? Because he's picking all of the Alabama players, like he used to pick all the Rutgers players. Now Greg Schiano back at Rutgers. So keep an eye out for all these Rutgers players heading to New England in the upcoming years. But how beneficial to Bill Belichick was it to have his friendship with Nick Saban, especially when it comes to picking what he hopes is his next franchise quarterback?
No doubt. I mean, Alabama is just basically like a farm team for the NFL. I mean, it's ridiculous. They had 6 guys go in the first round this past year, and you look at the receivers they've had that's gotten drafted over just the last 2 drafts, where 4 go in the first round. And even look at the quarterbacks now in the NFL that are from Bama. Obviously you have Tua, you now have Mac Jones, but Jalen Hurts to me is way more of a Bama quarterback than he is, his 1 year at Oklahoma. So you really have 3 Alabama quarterbacks now all in the league during their thing too over the last couple of years. So, I mean, they're an NFL factor. I mean, why wouldn't you want to draft an Alabama player? Of course, it's only when the Jets draft, D. Milner, he's terrible. So hopefully Quentin Williams ends up being a lot better come from Bama, and so far so good. But yeah, I mean, look, Saban's the best college coach of all time, in my opinion. I had him on the show a couple months ago, and I asked him that, and he's a humble guy. He wouldn't say it, obviously, but to me, I don't really think there's a debate. I think when you look at what he's done since he's been there, how infrequently they actually lose a game. Like, forget not winning a national title. They barely lose football games season after season. for him to have won the amount of titles he's won, and he won one at LSU. He's won obviously the 6 at Alabama now. I mean, it's just crazy what he's accomplished.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be crazy. This draft looked like it was really good, and obviously the AFC East division is one that's going to be up for grabs, just like the NFC East. But our next topic has to be, dude, what is going on with Aaron Rodgers? There's reports that he is done. Diana Rossini from ESPN reported there's literally a 0% chance he's going back to Green Bay. We noticed how fed up he's been the last couple of years. They consistently try to, it seems like, work against him by drafting Jordan Love last year in the first round as opposed to taking a wide receiver 2 to help out across of Devontae Adams. And Jordan Love might never play now. And, they didn't really take many steps to help Rodgers and the offense out. This year, they didn't convince him that he's their guy, despite the GM, the coach coming out to tell them that, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is going to be back here. It just doesn't look like that. At this point, it looks like he'd rather go host Jeopardy than be the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. What have you heard?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing you guys have heard. First off, he wasn't even that good as a Jeopardy host. So we got to stop with the Jeopardy narrative. He'll go and host Jeopardy. He was fine. He was not as good as, Ken Jennings or Anderson Cooper or some of the other guys they had on. I mean, he made one joke where he was sarcastic about how the Packers season ended and went viral. It wasn't even that funny. I don't know. I don't watch Jeopardy, but that's what I was told from people that actually do watch Jeopardy, that he wasn't that great of a host. So I take their word for it. Now, that being said, I mean, if you're Aaron Rodgers, where are you going? If you wanted to be traded, this should have been done at the beginning of the offseason. Say whatever you want about Deshaun Watson, and believe me, there's a lot you can say about him given what's going on with his current situation. But he told the Texans in January that he wanted out. So there were plenty of teams that were prepared to offer Nick Caserio a huge package. Who's offering Aaron or the Packers a huge package after the draft? The market is limited. There's not that many teams.
Denver, they're talking about. Denver's the big one right now.
Denver already made their pick at 9, and the trade didn't get done. So, yeah, Denver, I guess, could make some sense. But is Green Bay going to get fair value for Aaron Rodgers at this point? I don't know. My gut tells me that what ends up happening is he goes back to Green Bay at some point. He probably holds out. Eventually, he shows up because he wants to get paid. He will play out this year, and then the team will mutually part ways with him when it's easy to cut him after the 2021 season without a huge cap hit. That clears the way for Jordan Love to be the guy, and everyone knows going in, it's going to basically be the Packers version of The Last Dance, where it's the last year with Rodgers at quarterback in Green Bay, go win the Super Bowl, and that's it. Because where is he going, by the way, that gives him a better chance to win than the Packers? You could knock the Packers for maybe not drafting receivers and skill position players in the first round, but that's because they hit on their mid-round picks like Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams, 2 of the best players at their position in the league. Robert Tonyan is a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. They have pieces in place. They've won 13 games each of the last 2 years. All we heard from Aaron Rodgers is, I got to host the NFC Championship game. We got to get it at Lambeau. They get the game at Lambeau, and they lose. And they lose where Tom Brady throws 3 interceptions in the second half, and they still couldn't win. So, as much as I'm on Rodgers' side for the most part, I think they should have took care of his contract the second the season ended. Drafting Jordan Love to me was dumb. At the end of the day, where are you going that gives your team a better chance, that gives you a better chance to win another Super Bowl? And last time I checked, Aaron Rodgers, for as great as he is, he's only been in 1 Super Bowl, and he only has that 1 ring. If he retires today and only ends up winning that 1 championship, aren't we going to look back at his career and say, as great as he was, he's so good, he should have won more? No one's asking him to win 7 like Brady, but he hasn't even been back to the game since 2010. That's 11 years ago. So I'm kind of all over the place with the Rodgers thing. I think there's blame on both sides.
I tend to agree with you. I thought, because I was like, listen, Rodgers isn't going anywhere. I feel the same way. Obviously teams would want him, but at what cost? At what cost are they going to give the Packers for him? I never thought he was leaving at least this year. And when he tried to pull the last second right before the draft, I'm not coming back, I was like, dude, this has to be a strong arm tactic by him, basically pressuring the front office to just one last ditch effort to really support the offense and just keep building it up. I agree with you. Green Bay right now is his best chance to win. I don't think they will, because I've said this so many times. They're soft. They're built from the outside in as opposed to inside out. They're really good. They can beat the bad teams like a good team's supposed to, but the trouble that they run in, that we've seen the last couple of years, when they play a physical team that comes at you, punches you in the mouth, like San Francisco, like Tampa Bay, like LA, they have trouble. They don't handle it very well. And I think, that's somewhere that they needed to focus aside from getting a wide receiver too. I do agree that Aaron Rodgers should have at least 2 or 3 rings, but let's call it what it is. A lot of it, and it's unfortunate to say, he's had one of the biggest underachieving head coaches for most of his career. I think he currently has an idiot as his head coach right now. I think Matt LaFleur I think he's an overachiever right now. I think Rodgers
still should be the Titans offensive coordinator.
Exactly. Or even Matt Ryan's offensive assistant, who, Matt Ryan turned out another head coach. That neither here nor there. But, Rodgers is covered up for so many mistakes on his team and so many flaws over the last 10 years that I think it goes unnoticed. I do agree with you that he should have more, at least maybe 2 or 3. But I think just the lack of help around him, and I'm not talking about like skill players, I'm talking about like little things, especially coaching, has really contributed to, if you want to call it a failure in terms of winning bigger games, I think you could say that.
I wouldn't say failure, but like just to follow up on that, Johnny, to me, it's like he's a Hall of Famer. To me, he's one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. Like he's an incredible player. My whole point on that is, he's passing blame to the Packers. They've won 13 games each of the last 2 years. They just hosted the NFC title game. You said, I don't think they could win because when they play big physical teams, they get beat. They should have won the NFC title game. Tom Brady throws 3 interceptions in the second half of the game. If Matt LaFleur decides to maybe go for it on the 3rd down and 4th down instead of kicking the field goal, maybe they win that game. So it's just like, it's frustrating because like Rodgers is painting this picture like this team is so far away from winning. They're not. They're in a terrible division. They'll walk right back to the playoffs, probably host another playoff game in the divisional round, maybe get the championship game again in their own building, depending on what happens with Tampa, and they'll have a legitimate chance to win a Super Bowl. Like if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I go back for 1 more year and then work out a deal like Brady did with his contract where he could leave. They can't franchise tag him, and he can go wherever he wants to wrap up his career. That's what I would do if I'm him, because for 2021, if he wanted out so bad, this should have been done months ago. Instead, it's all coming out the day of the draft when it's impossible now for Green Bay to trade him. I was told by an NFL person off the record the other day, there's no chance in hell the Packers are going to trade him. They'll just tell him either sit out or you're going to play quarterback for us. Aaron, we'll extend your contract. We'll guarantee you more money. We'll make you the highest paid player at your position, but we're not trading you. And I don't think they should trade him because I just don't think it makes sense for Green Bay to trade him when they still give him the best chance to win a championship this year.
Nick, I know you had something you wanted to add in on that.
Well, I understand why a deal did not get done to this point. The Packers were not going to trade him until June anyway because they don't want to take $18 million dead cap hit. That's another issue with this whole CBA, which is just these dates, that magical dates that make no sense. Oh, if you're this date, that holds up the league big time. But I said this all offseason with Watson. The players have no power in these situations. Call their bluff. There's only been one guy who actually has set out for a season. That's Le'Veon Bell. Aaron Rodgers is not going to do that. So the Packers have the power here. If they were going to trade Rodgers, though, you mentioned, Jake, there aren't many teams that would go after him maybe at this point as far as the offseason, but there are some people there. But really, what are the Broncos giving up? They don't have the draft capital here. The Raiders, he's looking at the Raiders. They're saying, oh, well, they can give up Carr. They don't want a quarterback. They're going to go with Love if they trade him. And the other team that we're hearing is the Giants, because the Giants have their first-round pick and the Bears' first-round pick. So if anything, maybe that's the best package. You could probably get 3 firsts out of that, but you don't really know. And it's a big decision, and you definitely don't want to rush something of this magnitude. And it all really comes down to the fact that, again, the team has the power here, and these crazy dates that come up from the NFL are so stupid, and they need to just fix that at some point. But we shall see.
Green Bay needs interior line help too.
They need a lot, man. They need a lot of help. My thing with Green Bay is they're blue chip players. They're stars. they have some of the best players at their position in the entire NFL. Devontae Adams is one of the best receivers in football. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in football. Aaron Jones is probably one of the 10 best running backs in football. On defense, you have Jair Alexander, one of the best corners in football. Zadarius Smith, one of the best pass rushers. I mean, the list goes on and on at what they have, but there's just supporting guys that just seem to lack in the big moment. For example, a Kevin King. That's why they went out and they got another corner. There's these guys that it just seems like there's such weak links in a team that hold them back in the big moments. Like, your stars honestly can only do so much. Like, look at Tampa. Tampa had some of these guys who aren't big names step up and make plays when they had to. Look at even a guy like Antoine Winfield. Obviously, he was a rookie, and he was, he's a stud coming out. But, they had guys like that. Even the Tyler Johnson kid, the wide receiver, made a couple big catches against New Orleans to keep the chains moving. It's just, you need contributions from everybody. It's just Aaron Rodgers can't be shouldering the burden every single time. Like, he can't be coming out there, go 28 of 33, throw for 330, 4 touchdowns, and still lose. Like that type of thing just can't happen. It doesn't matter who you're playing. So you're going to have other people come out and step in.
Yeah, and you just remember too in that NFC title game, Johnny, their best offensive lineman, David Bakhtiari. I can never say his name. Bakhtiari.
No, Bakhtiari.
Yeah.
Bakhtiari. However you pronounce it, he was the highest paid offensive lineman in football when they gave him the
out. Yeah,
he was out. I mean, do they win that game if he plays and all of a sudden JPP gets blocked a couple times? So we can nickel and dime Green Bay. I'll tell you what, I'd give my right pinky to see the New York Jets have a roster that is as good as the Packers roster has been the last couple of years. So, every team's got their issues. You're not going to fix every problem. Their issue was their secondary. They got a good corner at the end of round 1 to try and help their cornerback situation. Like, Rodgers, to me, as great as he is, he's not handling the situation the right way. Deal with it. Go back, play one more year, and then you'll get a chance to go wherever. Trying to force a trade now, the Packers just aren't going to trade him. They're going to say, all right, we have Jordan Love. We're going to play him till you want to come back, Aaron. And if you don't want to come back, sit out. And guess what? He doesn't get that year of his life back. He's 38 years old. He's losing out on a year to put up gaudy numbers and potentially win a ring. Like Tom Brady bit his tongue, played out his last year in New England, and then left. If Aaron Rodgers truly wants to leave, do the exact same thing Brady just did when he left Belichick.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I'm with you. I never thought he was going anywhere, at least this year. And I really think it does give him the best chance to win. I mean, Green Bay is a top 3 team in the conference. And honestly, man, all you got to do is make the playoffs. Because once you make the playoffs, it's all about matchups. It's all about who you play. I think Tampa and LA are their 2 biggest threats right now. And I got to say, if Washington gets any type of production from their quarterback situation, I think Washington's a real threat because that defense will manhandle that offensive line.
It's just tough to trust Fitz. I've seen it before, man. I mean, he had his best year of his life with the Jets in 2015. And then when the game mattered, winning you're in, go 11-5, go to the playoffs. He throws, 3 or 4 interceptions in Buffalo, and I still have nightmares about how that season ended. So,
You seeing ghosts? You see
ghosts?
Yeah,
man. I like Fitz. He's a nice guy. We all love the Fitz magic, but there's a reason why the guy's played on 70 different teams in the NFL. He is kind of what he is.
No, I agree. He's not going to change his play style either. He's all or nothing. He's the Big Ben type. It's do or die for him. But you know what, man? He surprised us. And honestly, all you got to do is get in. And the NFC East is, like you said, it's wide open. And now there's an extra game, and which I hate and I think is stupid. And there's a 7th playoff spot. And they made the playoffs with Taylor Heineke starting with a real turbulent quarterback situation all season long. And now, I mean, listen, they only improve their roster, and that includes Fitzmagic.
I think they downgraded a quarterback, in my opinion. Fitzpatrick never won a playoff game, never been to the playoffs. The guy is going to lose them some games. He won them some games as well. And I really think the Alex Smith factor was huge there, and he was able to steer the ship in the locker room. And I think, Jake, a lot of the players and his peers there really respect what he was able to do coming off the injury.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. They should name the Comeback Player of the Year award, the Alex Smith award, basically, for what he did. But, did they upgrade there? I think Fitz is a little better than Alex Smith, but I just don't look at Washington like a great team. I mean, they were 7-9 a year ago. You give them credit. They played 4 different quarterbacks at various points, but we'll see. I think that division was called the NFC least for a reason. I think the Giants are improved. I think Dallas, if Dak is healthy, is obviously a much better team, but you're not in love with their coach. You're not in love with their defense. So each of those teams have question marks clearly, and I think ultimately, if you're the Giants, where you have the weapons you have in place, you have a head coach you believe in, and you have obviously a really good defense. We talked about it at the top. I think if the Giants don't win the NFC East, it's a failed season. I mean, all 4 of those teams, you could argue if things go right, maybe they can be in contention, but I'd be placing a wager on the Giants because I like the value of getting them where they are right now.
You do have to agree, though, Jake, that you would think it's probably between the Cowboys and the Giants, right?
I do. Or you could throw Washington in there too. I don't trust Fitz. I'd love to be wrong. I'm not getting burned by what I saw from 2015. The Jets bring him back and then he bombs in 2016. Like Fitz does his thing where he goes from being the starter, plays poorly, gets benched. Then he's the backup, gets into the game, plays great, gets to be a starter again. Some team signs him in free agency, and it's the never-ending cycle of Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I probably would rank, Dallas or the Giants at the top tier, Washington slightly under, and the Eagles, just because of the unknown with what Jalen Hurts is, would probably be at the bottom.
Definitely good stuff, man. We're going to absolutely have you on the show a lot more, and we're going to definitely be talking more football as the season progresses. I'll definitely got to get in on some betting, but I always tell everybody it is way too soon. We can't even start to look at football bets for futures until probably mid-August, once all the training camps and all the preseason is done, and we've got to make sure nobody really gets hurt. But we'll absolutely keep you on the show, and appreciate you coming on, man. Really enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun today. Thank you.
Johnny, Nick, Kyle, my pleasure, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you,
All right,
Jake.
Jake. Good seeing you, pal.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Jake Asman. Good people, man. Good people. Really enjoyed having him on. He always gives it to us straight.
Really knows his stuff, man.
And he really knows his stuff. Absolutely. You can find him, the host of the Jake Asman Show, on SportsMet Radio, on Twitter at Jake Asman. Actual GOAT. So let's keep it on from football. Let's transition a little bit here. We got a couple things before we wrap up. Few injury notes. Dodgers starter Dustin May, tall carrot top, one of the most identifiable people on the planet, has to undergo Tommy John surgery. He was absolutely humming against the Brewers the other day. 3 strikeouts in his first 5 batters. And if you watch the play, on one of his follow-throughs, you knew right away. It didn't look right, and pointed to his arm, came out of the game immediately. It just did not look good, and it confirmed that he had to get Tommy John. That's a big loss for the Dodgers. I know you're going to say, well, you know what? They got Clayton Kershaw, who, by the way, just got teed off on by the Cubs today, pulled after 1 inning. Trevor Bauer, reigning Cy Young guy. Walker Buehler, future Cy Young winner. They got Julio Urias. I mean, now you had David Price maybe back into the rotation, but that's a big loss, man, because let me tell you something. For those of you that don't know Dustin May, he has maybe some of the best stuff as a pitcher in the major leagues. And I'm not even kidding. His 2-seam fastball is 98 miles an hour with 18 to 19 inches of movement. And that's not an exaggeration. It's actually measured. So that's a big loss. Wish him a speedy recovery. Also, by the way, he was one of our darlings for the strikeout overs every week. Sucks. Moving on to Chicago White Sox, star outfielder Luis Robert. Sunday afternoon was running out a infield base hit, and something just popped in his quad. He's got a grade 3 tear, still might require surgery. He's going to be out 12 to 16 weeks. Hopefully he's back towards the end of the season. The White Sox hope to be in the playoffs, so that'd be a big addition. But losing Robert along with Eloy Jimenez is an absolute killer. The guys like Yohan Moncada, Yermin Mercedes got to keep it going. Jose Abreu, Timmy Anderson, those guys are going to have to really step up because they're down 2 superstar outfielders, and hopefully he comes back this season, doesn't have to get surgery.
How's Louis Robert tear his quad and he only is out for a couple of weeks and doesn't? Oh, well, he's out 12 to 16 weeks, but he doesn't need surgery.
He might need surgery. They're mulling that option. It's definitely a possibility. It's nearly a complete tear, so they're hoping that they're not going to have to get it.
You would think they have to do that.
I mean, I would think so, man. I'm not a medical expert, obviously, but if there's one,
just saying.
I know. I know. If there's one thing I think we've seen in the past from teams, especially in football,
right?
Even though this is baseball, I feel like teams will try and let it heal on its own, because if they have to get surgery, it's done. He's done for the year. Whereas if they have him wait a little bit, maybe they have him wait like 2 months, and if it's not getting better, then they'll pull the plug. So that way he has a chance to come back, because this White Sox team is a legitimate World Series threat. So they're going to need him. But the worst thing would be is to have him wait like 3 months, not get better, then he needs surgery. Like I think the Astros did that with Justin Verlander and his Tommy John 2 years ago. And that's just the worst. And then, his following season's in jeopardy. But we're going to see about that. It's a good chance that he'll probably need surgery, but hopefully he doesn't. And just got news today, Jacob deGrom was a very late scratch from his start against the Cardinals, being diagnosed with right side soreness. They're going to have an MRI pending just to be cautious. Hopefully it's nothing. It's never good missing a start, but you always take precautions with a guy like deGrom. So they're hoping he's going to make his next start and, only just miss one. Nick, don't shed too many tears on me.
It's upsetting. Mets are rough. It's rough right now. Luis Rojas has lost Sunday night. Mets up by 4 going into the 9th. They knew they were going to do a bullpen game on Monday, and yet he throws Diaz, who looked horrible, basically gave up a home run. Then they said it was double to Rhys Hoskins.
Got lucky. Got very lucky.
Diaz is now injured. Not in the IL, by the way. Davis, I think they finally put in the IL. Nimmo, not in the IL, just sitting on the bench. Notice this trend under Sandy Alderson. They always have guys injured. They just keep them on the bench for like 7-8 days, have a small roster, and they put them on the IL, and they're gone for half the season. Now, it's a bullpen game last night. Lucchesi gets rocked. Got to be done with him. Now, tonight, bullpen game again. Castro's going to start. They're trying to get Jordan Yamamoto there from the alternate site and time. Or maybe he was actually in Syracuse because they're starting their season tonight. Syracuse Mets, he's in AAA. So it's going to be tough to see if he's going to get there mid-game and come into the game probably. It's all good for the Mets bullpen right here. And the offense looks horrendous. And they fired Chili Davis and his assistant Tom Slater early this morning. And we'll get to final thoughts later on Francisco Lindor because he's been atrocious. But if DeGrom is out, it's really bad news. Hopefully it's just he's missing the start. What I would do is immediately today, I would put him on the injured list retroactive to his last start, which is 5 days ago. That means he could just come back in 4 days and pitch again. But no, they'll just waste the roster spot for another 4 days. And that's why I always argued, MLB should change their roster rules to expand by 4 players. And then the 4 other starters not starting the game should be inactive. It'd just make more sense. But, maybe somebody wants to call me in for some CBA talk for NFL or NHL or NBA or MLB. But I'm worried about DeGrom here. We'll see what happens. But, as you pointed out, John, a few times here, the Mets, if they could stick around 500 here, they got Carrasco coming back probably next week. Syndergaard's coming back next month. Lugo's coming back real soon. But really, the pitching has been lights out without those guys. Tops in the MLB. Imagine if they could hit. They'd have a 4 or 5 game lead in the NL East right now.
We'll definitely get more.
The same old Mets still sucking with a new owner. It's just the same.
I never heard this song before. Doesn't
listen.
I didn't even impersonate it right. It's just same old Mets.
DeGrom, that's one we're gonna have to keep our eye on. But we'll definitely dive in more into the Mets next week. We got to see how they're doing. Moving on, surprise today, the Gambling Guinea. That's me. My best betting trends. I have nothing because Jacob deGrom. Actually, I had 3 plays from that game, and I'm not in love with anything else. I was keeping my eye on the White Sox first 5 versus the Reds. They're still 18-5-2 on the season, or 18-4-2 in their first 5 this this year, which is incredible. But they've honestly been struggling a little bit lately. Now the loss of Robert. They're playing the Reds at home, who score like 1,000 runs a game. So I need to stay off that. Everything else I wasn't sold on. But as usual, you always circle your calendars for the guys like DeGrom, Tyler Glasnow, Max Scherzer, Shane Bieber, even Corbin Burns. When those guys are pitching, you want to take their strikeout totals almost the whole time because this season they've barely missed and they're absolute savages.
Is there anybody this season that you're automatically always going to take the over in total bases?
Total bases. I got to say, dude, the guys that I really look at, the guys that I really like, there's 3 guys. I love Shohei Ohtani's over total bases. This kid's been unbelievable. And he got scratched from his start last night. Again, I was looking forward to Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani. Was watching that game. I was looking forward to that pitching matchup, and they scratched him late. I think they need to pull the plug on him pitching, but that's beating a dead horse. He's too good of a hitter and a fielder to be limited like that. But Ohtani, Acuna, I think he's going to start getting it back together. He had that really bad 8 games back from the injured list. And honestly, Nick Castellanos from the Reds, the kid, he literally breathes extra base hits. Nobody's had more extra base hits than him in the last 3 years. Nobody. And that includes guys like
Trout?
Nobody. The guy who leads the league in extra base hits the last 3 seasons, I believe, maybe 4, or since Castellanos came in the league, nobody. And I mean nobody has more than him. That kid is literally a walking extra base hit. He's an absolute dog. He's just a savage. I'd always take his over. And strikeouts, Tyler Glasnow. Took him again last night. I think there's only maybe 1, even 2 starts that he hasn't hit the over on strikeouts. The kid is just electric. There's just not. I mean, that's why he's my AL Cy Young prediction for this year.
Yeah, last week you boldly went under on DeGrom strikeouts, and
I was sweating.
I was sweating. He could, if he went back there for another inning, but yeah. Bad start by DeGrom. 6 innings pitched, 9 strikeouts, 1 run. Terrible start. Gets the loss.
That reminds me. So DeGrom actually, because his just absurd strikeout numbers, books have been setting his total at 10.5, which is ridiculous. And I was actually probably going to fade it and take the under again tonight until they move it down. But there's one play that I really always like with DeGrom. It's 16-5 in his last 21 starts. When DeGrom pitches, the Mets and their opponent, first inning, under. They don't score. They do not score when DeGrom pitches in the first inning. It's 16-5 in his last 21 starts. So just as an FYI, that's definitely a play to always look out for. You lay a lot more money. Today was actually going to be like 160. I was actually going to take the Cardinals as well in the first 5 against DeGrom because they were plus 200. And the Cardinals are 6-0-1 in their last 7 games. And DeGrom's 2-3 in his last 5 in his last 7 starts, or every start he made this season. So it's definitely interesting. Yeah,
I think we got to get to totally Kyle's best betting trends here with the emerging player of the night.
The emerging player of the night.
Take it away.
That in my mind would be
over 1.5 points.
Mr. Connor McDavid. That's right. The man has been a savage lately. The man has 14 points in the last 5 games alone. That is, we're talking, we're getting into the, I mean, we're not in Gretzky stratosphere, but we're definitely in Sidney Crosby stratosphere. Let me tell you about that one. He only had his plus minus. He only had 1 game where he was in the negative, and that was a game where he didn't even score a point. He was just on the ice for a goal, and that was against Calgary on April 29th. I really like him to hit 100 points this year. Definitely, 100%.
I think he's the quickest player to 90 points in a season. And remember, this is a shortened season, so
that's true as well, right? In a shortened season, he's really
made
that effort.
If I was betting, and I didn't know anything about hockey, but I do. But if I was this Italian guy from New Jersey who didn't know anything about hockey and he wanted to make some money, put the over on points each game for Connor McDavid.
Absolutely, I agree with that statement. That is a shoo-in at this point in the year. I mean, the guy is so hot that the ice is melting on his stick.
Ooh.
And let's hope. I'm going to hope that next week our emerging star of the week of the show is Justin Henry, who hopefully gives us the emerging graphics we want for this program.
Jay Henry, get your head out of your ass, buddy. Let's go. We need you to start making some graphics for us.
That's all right. I'm starting to learn in CSB. So, if that falls through, your boy Kyle's got you here, hopefully.
Totally Kyle.
That's right.
Everybody, Kyle's betting trends. Love it.
All right, boys. Let's move it on. Let's wrap it up here. Final thoughts. Nick, I know you've been dying for this one. Take it away, buddy.
Man, Francisco Lindor. I mean, I hate to overreact quickly here, but if you look at this guy's last 162 games, he is batting around 260. Not exactly what you want for a guy you're paying $340 million who you're going to have on your team for 11 seasons. And he's not happy here in Booze. John, you've been to Citi Field, at Yankee Stadium when the team is playing bad. Right now, there's only like 20% occupancy in the stadium. Come July 1st, if this guy is still hitting under 200, right now he's creeping down to 140. He is going to be booed out of the building, and it's going to be beyond the point of return. His confidence is shattered. I don't care what Diesel, Donnie Stevenson, Donnie Baseball does with the approach here. The hitting coach is gone. Lindor, you got to get it together here. Your hips flapping out before you're swinging. You got to do what you were brought here to do, because it's really bad. Every time that this guy gets up after the first inning, there's always runners on base, and it's automatic ground out. It's pretty brutal right now. At the very least, Luis Rojas has to have some stones here, and he has to drop him from the 2-hole. You can't. How much more can he go on right now, batting him second? If DeGrom's next start, he needs to bat second because he's the best hitter on the team. Maybe DeGrom can't pitch because of his soreness, but maybe they could pinch hit him for Lindor in a big spot later on today. Everyone keeps saying he's too good to stay this bad, but I think the pressure over New York's getting to him a little bit, and it's not even real pressure, because if there were full fans in the stands, John, he'd be getting crucified. It would be really bad, brutally booed. He's lucky right now that there's not that many fans there.
That being said, he's got to straighten it out, but it's just the same old Mets. It's just the same routine. I think this franchise is cursed. Have you ever thought of that, Nick, as a Met fan?
Well, it's not exactly the same old Mets, because never before the Mets spent $340 million on a player. But what I will say is, what do you expect? Steve Cohen comes in and he hires the old general manager who was horrible, and Sandy Alderson. We're having all these behind-the-scenes issues with personnel and poor management decisions. So at some point, you got to look around and say, what's the common denominator here? It's Sandy Alderson. I think the guy should not be where he is. He needs to go. Bring in Theo Epstein after the season, along with a new manager.
Wow. All right, guys.
He said
we got to talk Mets next week, because let's give him another chance. And we're out of time, unfortunately.
Got to talk Knicks next week, too.
Knicks is basketball, bro. Who cares?
The playoff
basketball.
Playoffs.
I kind of agree with you there, Johnny. It's the same way people feel about hockey. I'd rather pay attention to hockey than basketball.
Yeah, bro. Only thing I care about the NBA is NBA Top Shot. That's it. That's all I care about.
We didn't talk about how dumb LeBron James is for saying whoever made up the 7-10 playing game is an idiot. And even in March 2020, he was calling for the game. So, I mean,
I don't care what LeBron said. I don't care what LeBron James said.
LeBron's apparently not getting a vaccine shot either.
Who cares? That's his decision. I don't care.
I agree, but
you can do whatever he wants.
I agree. I totally agree. But if you're going to be critical of other people and then you like to pot calling kettle black.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
And next week we're gonna have a fantasy football expert on the show, right, Johnny?
Yes, we are. And TBD, we might have another expert that everybody's gonna go wild for. TBD, but we definitely have a fantasy expert on there, so you don't want to miss it. We're gonna get an early preview of the guys that you need to be looking out for and the value that you'll be able to see in your fantasy drafts this summer. Make sure you tune in next week, 6 p.m., same time, same spot.
And John will be wearing a Kyle Pitts jersey.
I will not, because I don't buy jerseys of people that are younger than me unless I personally know them. That is a
Also,
rule I
fantasy,
have.
It's a good idea. Good
fantasy
move.
drafts for your dynasty leagues, drafting your rookies upcoming.
True. That is true. All right, guys. For everybody, follow us on Twitter. I'm at _JohnnyVTV.
I'm at the Kyle Donnelly on Instagram.
I'm at Nick_Durst on Twitter, and now I'll let John talk about the Instagrams next.
Thank you. I'm at Gambling Guinea.
I'm at Nick's Food and Stuff. Kyle, let them know your Twitter in this section.
That I still don't have yet.
Kyle, get a Twitter, bro. I'm gonna make you a Twitter if you don't get one.
I know. We were talking about it in CSB class, so
You're
I'm gonna
killing
have
me,
it.
Smalls. Get a
Kill it
Twitter.
right
Like a real
there. Right.
Shemanood. Like a real Shemanood.
Yeah, I know. I gotta get.
All
on
right,
it.
it's dinner time. Kyle's
It's
gonna
dinner
go eat. I
time.
gotta
Let's
eat.
go.
Ring in the
All
dinner
right,
bell.
guys. Great talking to you. Definitely see you again next week. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. This has been Johnny VTV Live.